One thing that never fails to astound me about being a tokusatsu fan is the fact that this medium that I consider to be one of my main interests, actually is kind of older than TV itself when you look at it in a technical sense, which means it's also older than, like, my grandparents' existence. And as such, it makes it really interesting to try and attempt to go back and look at some of the earliest examples of the medium in TV, which is something I tried to do back in the late 2010s when I burned out on watching Superhero Time week to week the first time. I got this idea in my head of, oh, I should try and just become a student of the medium in general and try and watch every show that's subbed in release order dating all the way back to Moonlight Mask. But a lot of Moonlight Mask is lost now, including the first episode, so I actually ended up skipping over that and a couple of other things to go to the beginning of the first big franchise, which is Ultra Q, the precursor to Ultraman, and oh boy, was that interesting. Hey everybody, what's going on? I'm the Vacuuminator, and I'm here to tell you about the oldest tokusatsu show I've seen. I've seen a couple movies older than Ultra Q, namely the original Godzilla, but Ultra Q definitely feels the oldest out of anything I've seen, as it has a very early TV feel to it, being of that era. I believe the show was from like the early part of the 60s, before color TV was even all that popular in Japan, and as such, the show definitely is very different from most anything you'd find within the tokusatsu medium, mainly that it doesn't even really have a principal cast. There's a group of characters who show up in a majority of episodes, but it's not like there's a continuing story or plot that surrounds them. They're more just a vehicle in most episodes for the writers and directors to explore a story surrounding some kind of early tokusatsu effect they want to try out. And as I understand it, that was mainly the idea behind the show. It was Eiji Tsuburaya leaving the Godzilla production team to try and do more of the stuff he was interested in, while still having a working relationship with Toho at the time. And, you know, full disclaimer, that information coming from me is like fourth or fifth hand. I don't consider myself to be an Ultra Series expert. I just know the bits and pieces I picked up over the years, but that's the general impression I get, and I think if that is true, it makes for a very interesting show that almost sort of feels like a Japanese version of The Twilight Zone, with it being very much a plot of the week with a lesson or a moral more often than not, sort of surrounding some kind of interesting early sci-fi concept. Though, unlike The Twilight Zone, the morals never really get much deeper than, hey kids, don't be shitheads. And to be honest, that's kind of fine. It makes it all the more charming and wholesome in its early way, and honestly, for TV of that era of Japan, it honestly feels a lot more innocent and wholesome than a lot of other TV I've checked out of that era from the state side of things, or even some modern tokusatsu. One of the principal cast members is a young woman, and she almost never feels marginalized. She's much more of like a go-getter, take charge, almost the main character in most episodes type, and that was one of the most impressive things about the show to me when I originally watched it. The first episode is just about a town dealing with a giant monster that appears out of a cave they were mining in, and that's kind of cool. I really appreciate that the show isn't trying to tell a story or get you attached to a cast of characters like later Ultra series would. It's literally just an excuse to play around with a concept that the writer and director have. You know, there's just kind of this mystique about the series that I feel a lot of franchises would fail to get later on when they started focusing more and more on selling toys and creating characters and stories, and I like those aspects of tokusatsu, but it's just interesting to see something so different, and though I know there is a Neo Ultra Q and Ultra 7X is supposed to be sort of a throwback to the Ultra Q style of storytelling, I've not checked those out yet, and I do kind of wish a modern Toku series would attempt something like this. Because when I think of most modern Toku shows, I think of the main characters and the journey they went on and the meaning I ascribe to what they went through. When I think of Ultra Q, I just get flashes of weird, surreal images from that show, like Gomez's first appearance, or Kamegomon dancing around a junkyard with a bunch of kids, or people being chased around a deserted island in the middle of the night, or a kid with an exploded face riding on a flying turtle. This show goes places, man. And I think it's because of that. It's because of that very distinct charm that Ultra Q has as a piece of early TV that's trying to feel out what the medium of tokusatsu is going to become, that it's the only original series to date I've finished, unless you want to count later franchises that aren't even going at the moment, like Garo or the Metal Heroes. I've watched all of Space Sheriff Gavan and the original Garo, but I've still not finished Kamen Rider 1971, and I did try and watch Go Ranger around this time, and I only got like 20-something episodes in. I'm still working away at that Kamen Rider 1971 watch through I mentioned back on Shin Kamen Rider release day, but it's slow but steady progress. I used to like shotgun 2 or 3 episodes of Ultra Q every night when I originally watched it, and it's stuck in my brain so well since that I've not ever felt the need to go back to it, whereas I'm almost 70 episodes into the original Kamen Rider now, and even when I'm watching it every workday on my lunch, and then I'm talking about the episodes I watched that week on my weekly Tokusatsu podcast, This Week in Toku, which you can find on the Modular Media YouTube channel, most of the time lately, my summary of the episodes I watched is just, yeah, here's the general feel of the show right now. I dug these recent episodes, or I didn't dig them. I can't really remember specific plot points, whereas, like I said, there's things from Ultra Q that years and years later after my original watch through, I'm still like, yeah, I remember that. I remember that episode well enough that I could do a video just about it, but I didn't want to do that today. I just kind of wanted to do a video talking about going back and looking at old tokusatsu and how Ultra Q still holds up all these years later. Even if you're not a fan of like black and white TV or the slower pace of older TV shows, I think it is worth giving it a shot just to see the roots of the Ultraman franchise and tokusatsu as a medium on TV. It is that essential, I think, to understanding this thing we all love, that if you haven't checked it out, well, what are you waiting for, man? It's streaming for free, English subbed on Tokusatsu right now, and has been for years. Heck, you could get the Blu-ray off Amazon. It's worth doing. It's worth taking that time out of your day to just check out a few of the episodes of the original TV Tokusatsu, as far as like starting a franchise goes, because Moonlight Mask, they are the original TV Tokusatsu, but you don't get Kaiju on TV. You don't get Henshin Hero on TV without the Ultra franchise. You get stuff that's kinda similar to that stuff. I think Ultra Q is really where it starts, and it's really where everybody should go back to at least once in their life. So, yeah. That whole attempt at going back and watching everything in order wouldn't last. I did it for about 2 years before burning out and going like, I want to get back into current. I want to just kind of bounce around and watch things as they come to me. And next week we're going to talk about a show from that era that I'm still currently in, where I'm watching everything I can week to week for my Tokusatsu podcast and going back and watching whatever older stuff I'm in the mood for. But you'll just have to join me for that next time. And I hope you will. I hope you'll subscribe and ring the bell and give this video a like and comment and stick around, engage with the algorithm, all that good stuff. Maybe consider supporting me on Patreon if you haven't yet and you've been around for a little while. It's just $1 a month. You get videos early. You get a monthly exclusive podcast. You get your name in the end credits. It's a good little deal, I think. But that's pretty much all the plugging I have to do for this one. I know it was a little off-kilter from my normal style. I'm not even in my normal location today, but I wanted to just kind of spitball this one and talk about, well, the roots of the medium and why they're worth checking out. And now that I've said that about a half dozen times, well, there's nothing left to do except remind you that you never fail until you stop trying, which is why I'll never fail to keep hammering home the points of a video and making it clear that you really should at least give the classics a shot. Until next time.